In Opoma village, children stopped reaching the age of 5. And nobody, not the elders, not the herbalists, not even God, could explain why. It started slowly. First it was Emeka's son, the blacksmith's boy, a healthy child who laughed at everything. He was fine on a Tuesday. By Friday, he was in the ground. People said it was fever. They buried him and moved on. Then Mama Bisi's twins went within the same week, both of them. Then the carpenter's daughter. Then the teacher's boy. In less than 2 years, Opoma village had lost 11 children under the age of 5. People started whispering. Then they started leaving. Something is eating our children, the elders said during a meeting under the mango tree. Something old, something angry. The herbalist, a small dry man named Ode, had seen 70 years of village life. He had treated malaria, set broken bones, and chased evil spirits from 3 families. But this thing, he shook his head when people came to him. He had no answer, and that scared everyone more than anything else. The women began hiding their children inside during the day. Some tied red threads around small wrists. Some stopped giving their children names until they passed age 5, so death wouldn't know who to look for. None of it worked. Ochi was not a woman who accepted suffering without a fight. She was 31 years old, broad-shouldered, with hands rough from farm work and eyes that saw everything twice. She had grown up in Opoma, married a quiet man named Raju, and together they had buried 2 children already. Her first son, Chiki, died at 3 years old. Her daughter, Amara, made it to 4 before the same invisible thing took her in her sleep. Both times, Ochi had screamed until her voice broke. Both times, Raju had held her while she shook. Both times, Ode, the herbalist, had looked at the ground and said nothing useful. Now, Ochi was pregnant again. 5 months. She couldn't sleep. She would lie on her mat at night, listening to Raju breathe beside her, her hand flat on her belly, thinking, not this one, not again. She had tried prayer. She had tried the church. She had tried Ode's medicines, the pastor's oil, the old woman's charms from the next village. Nothing had saved her children. So the night she heard about the river spirit, she didn't hesitate. It was an old woman named Mama Titi who told her. Mama Titi lived at the edge of the village, alone, with 7 cats and a reputation for knowing things people weren't supposed to know. She called Ochi to her door one evening and spoke quietly. There is something in the Oji River, she said. It has always been there, long before any of us. It can protect your child, but it asks for something in return. What does it ask for? Ochi said. Mama Titi looked at her a long time before answering. Darkness. The children it protects must not see full sunlight for their first 7 years. No naming ceremony in the open. No school. No church. They must live in the shadow, or the deal breaks, and the river takes them back. Ochi should have walked away. Any sensible woman would have. Instead, she said, when do I go to the river? She went alone at midnight, 3 days later. Raju didn't know. She told him she was visiting her cousin in the next compound. Instead, she walked 40 minutes through dark bush to reach the Oji River. The river was calm that night, which was unusual. It was normally loud, rushing, splashing over rocks. But when Ochi arrived, the water was flat as a mirror, and it was glowing. A faint greenish light came from somewhere underneath, making the whole riverbank look sick and beautiful at the same time. She didn't see a figure. She heard a voice that seemed to come from inside the water itself, low, slow, like something speaking from the bottom of a very deep well. You are not the first to come here desperate, and you will not be the last. What do you want, woman of Opoma? Ochi told it everything, her dead children, her fear, the baby inside her. She was not crying. She had passed crying months ago. She spoke calmly, like someone placing an order. The river was quiet for a long moment. Then, I will give you more than one. I will give you 2, strong, healthy, impossible to kill by any ordinary thing. But they belong to the shadow until their 7th year is done. No sunlight on their skin, no public ceremonies,
No outsider must know their faces. If anyone breaks this, a neighbor, a relative, anyone, the deal collapses, and I will reclaim what I gave." "And after 7 years?" Ochi asked. "After 7 years, they are fully yours, free. The shadow lifts. But the 7 years must be completed, every single day." Ochi pressed her palm flat to the water. She felt something cold grip it from below. Not painful, just firm, like a handshake. She walked home in the dark, already planning.
4 months later, Oki gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl, both perfectly healthy, both screaming at full volume, both with the same serious eyes that seemed to be looking at something just behind your shoulder. She named the boy Kalu and the girl Nne, but only inside the house. Outside, they had no names. Raju wept when he held them for the first time. He was a gentleman, tall, quiet, slow to anger, and the loss of their first 2 children had hollowed him out in a way he never talked about. These babies seemed to fill that hollow back up. But Oki sat him down that same night and told him everything. The river, the pact, the conditions. Raju stared at her. "You made a deal with a water spirit," he said slowly. "I made a deal to keep our children alive," she said. He was quiet for a very long time. Then he looked at the twins, sleeping in the corner of the room, their small chests rising and falling. "No sunlight," he repeated. "No sunlight, no ceremonies, no outsiders knowing their faces, not until they turn 7. Raju rubbed his face with both hands. Then he nodded. "All right, we protect them." For the next 6 years, Kalu and Nne lived mostly inside. Their home became their world. The 4 mud walls, the small courtyard with the thatched roof overhead, the space between the back rooms where cool air came through at dusk. They only went outside at night. In the dark, they were free, running barefoot in the compound, catching fireflies, sitting with their parents under the stars. Ochi taught them to read by lantern light. Raju taught them songs, math, stories. They were bright, curious children. Anyone who saw them would have loved them immediately. But almost no one saw them. Neighbors noticed the strange household. No baby shower, no naming ceremony, no children playing outside during the day. People talked. Ochi gave the same explanation every time. The children are sickly. The doctor says they must avoid direct sun. Most people accepted this. Okpoma had seen enough sickness to not ask too many questions. The twins grew up knowing the rules. From the time they were old enough to understand, Ochi had explained it clearly, not with fear, but with firmness. The sun is not for us yet. When you are 7, everything changes, but until then, we stay inside. Kalu accepted this. He was a serious boy, thoughtful, happiest when reading or helping Raju fix things around the house. He didn't need the outside world very much. Nne was different. She pressed her face against the window every morning and watched the other children playing in the street. She memorized their voices, their games, their laughter. She wanted it so badly it came off her like heat. But she obeyed, because Ochi had told them both the truth plainly. If the light touches you before your time is done, I lose you. I've already lost 2. I cannot lose you too. That was enough for Nne. She stayed inside. The problem came from inside the family. It always does. Ochi's sister-in-law, Ugoma, had lived in the next compound since her husband died 5 years earlier. She was a proud, handsome woman who had never quite forgiven the world for what it had given others and not her. She had no children. Watching Ochi raise 2 healthy children while she remained childless was a pain that had slowly turned into something uglier. She had noticed the strange arrangements in Ochi's house from the beginning. No naming ceremony, insulting. No church blessing, shameful. Children hidden away like dirty secrets. She had asked Raju about it more than once, and he had given her the same doctor's orders story Ochi gave everyone else.
But Ugoma was not everyone else. She watched more carefully. She came to visit at odd hours and paid attention to small things. The way the children were always dressed and ready but never seen outside. The way Ochi tensed whenever someone knocked during the day. One evening, she came early without notice and saw something that stopped her cold. The twins were sitting in the dark inner room with a candle between them, playing a game, and their eyes, catching the candle light, they reflected like cats. Not a brief flash, a steady glow, greenish like the river on a dark night. Ugoma said nothing. She smiled, accepted the palm wine Ochi offered and left, but her mind was working fast. She had grown up with the old stories. She knew what river-touched children looked like, and she knew that such children were worth something to the right people, specifically to old Ode, the herbalist, who paid well for unusual information. She visited Ode 2 days later. He listened without expression as she described what she'd seen. Then he was quiet for a while. "How old are they now?" he finally asked. 6 years, Ugoma said. Maybe 6.5. Ode nodded slowly. Something moved behind his old eyes. "I will need to see them in the light," he said. "Daylight. That is the only way to confirm it." "And if it's confirmed," Ugoma asked, "then I will know what to do." He reached under his table and put something wrapped in cloth into her hand. It was heavy. She left without asking any more questions. Inside Lifo.
Ugoma's plan was simple. She would throw a small family gathering, a Sunday afternoon get-together at her compound. She would invite Ochi and Raju as she always did, and this time she would make sure the twins came too. It took 2 invitations before Ochi agreed. She always made excuses about the children. This time, Ugoma pressed harder. "People are talking, Ochi. They say you are hiding those children. They say something is wrong with them. Bring them. Let everyone see they're healthy, just for one afternoon." Ochi hesitated. The gathering was outdoors, a shaded courtyard, but still outside. The children were nearly 7. 3 more months and the agreement would be complete. 3 months. She almost said no. She should have said no, but Ugoma's words about people talking had found a crack in her armor. Ochi was tired of hiding, tired of explaining, tired of watching her children press their faces against the window. 3 more months felt very long in that moment. She agreed to come, just for a short time. She would keep the children under the awning, in the shade. It would be fine. She didn't tell Raju what she was really worried about. She just said they were going to Ugoma's for Sunday food. Raju smiled. It was good that things were getting more normal, he said.
The gathering was small, maybe 12 adults, a few older children. Ochi arrived with the twins, dressed in matching dark outfits, both of them wide-eyed and quiet, overwhelmed by the noise and light and people they had never seen before. Kalu stayed close to Raju's side. Ne, for the first time in her life, looked overwhelmed rather than curious. The real world was louder and brighter than she'd imagined from the window. Ochi settled them under a large awning and watched carefully. The shade was good. No direct sun reached underneath. She began to relax, just slightly. Then the game started. Some of the older children began playing in the open yard, and without anyone planning it, Kalu took a few steps forward to watch. Just a few. Ne followed. They were not in the sun yet, still at the deep edge of the awning's shade, but they were closer to the outside world than they had ever been. Ugoma appeared from inside the house. "Kalu, Ne, come and get biscuits," she called, walking towards them with a plate, smiling wide and warm and completely false. She positioned herself so the children had to step forward to take the plate from her hands. 1 step, 2 steps. The sun hit Kalu first. Just his arm, just for a second, a thin strip of afternoon sunlight crossing his forearm as he reached for the biscuit. Ochi heard it before she saw it, a sound from the river direction, deep, low, not quite like any animal she knew, a rumble that went through the ground rather than the air. She felt it in her chest like a closed fist pressing inward. She was running before she understood why. Inside Lifo,
Where the sun had touched Kalu's arm, the skin had gone pale. Not just pale, transparent. You could see something moving underneath, faint and slow.
the way you can see blue veins through a newborn skin, and where the light still fell on it, it pulsed. Green. Once. Twice. Someone at the gathering screamed. Ochi snatched Kalu into her arms and pulled the Ney behind her in the same motion. She turned to face the gathering. Everyone was frozen, staring. Raju stood with his hands at his sides, looking at his son's arm with an expression she had never seen on his face before. Ugoma had stepped back. She wasn't smiling anymore. Old Ode the herbalist stepped out from the side of the house. He had been there the whole time. Ugoma had invited him. He walked slowly toward Ochi and the twins with the calm of a man who had been expecting this. In his hand was a clay vessel, old, sealed with wax. Ochi recognized it immediately. Mama Titi had warned her about vessels like that. They were used to trap river spirits. "Put the boy down," Ode said. "Stay back," Ochi said. From the direction of the Oji River, the low rumble came again. The ground vibrated. The water in the clay pots around Ugoma's compound began to tremble, sending small waves spreading outward from nothing. And the smell, the deep green smell of river water, came rolling through the compound like fog, though the river was 40 minutes away. "Ochi," Raju said quietly from behind her, "what is happening?" She looked at the vessel in Ode's hand. She looked at his eyes, and then she understood something she had never been told, but somehow knew completely. "He's not here for the children," she said, and her voice came out very calm. "He's here for the spirit. He wants to trap what's inside them."
What Ochi didn't know, what almost no one in Okpoma knew, was that Ode the herbalist was the reason the village curse had started in the first place. 30 years earlier, when Ode was a young man, he had gone to the Oji River himself and made a different kind of deal. Not to protect children, to gain power. He wanted the ability to cure any disease, see any spirit, know things others could not know. The river spirit had agreed, but with a condition. Every few years, it would ask for something in return. What it asked for were children, the life force of children taken slowly through what looked like mysterious illness. The curse on Okpoma's children was not ancient. It was not a village sin passed down through generations. It was Ode's personal debt, being paid with other people's children for 30 years. When Ochi went to the river, she had disrupted this arrangement. The spirit had taken her side, protected her children from Ode's collection. This made him furious. River-touched children were rare and powerful, and their energy, captured in a vessel, would clear his debt with the spirit completely. That was why Ugoma had found such a willing ear. He had been waiting for an opportunity like this for years. The terrible thing, the thing that would crush everyone in that compound, was that Ode had been at every single funeral for every child who died in Okpoma. He had been called to help. He had held the grieving mother's hands. He had prescribed herbs that did nothing. He had looked at the ground and shaking his head and said, "God's will," while knowing exactly what was happening and why. None of this was known to anyone in Ugoma's compound, but it was known to one person. Old Mama Titi appeared at the compound gate at that exact moment, breathing hard, having walked faster than anyone her age should have been able to walk. She looked at Ode. He looked at her. "Tell them," she said to him. "Tell them all of it, or I will." What happened next, people in Okpoma would talk about for generations. Ode stood in the middle of Ugoma's compound with 12 people watching him and Mama Titi's eyes burning into his face. He was 70 years old. He had carried this secret for 30 years, and whatever part of him was still human looked at the two small children Kalu pressed into his mother's chest, near gripping Ochi's cloth with both fists, and broke. He put the clay vessel down on the ground. He sat in the dirt, right there, and he confessed everything. The compound went completely silent. The only sound was the distant river, still rumbling, still carrying that smell of deep water. And Ode's voice, old, flat, and without any more lies in it,
going through 30 years of what he had done, how he had done it, and how many children it had cost. 11 names. He remembered every single one. Ugoma left while he was still talking. She simply walked out through the gate and disappeared down the road. Nobody stopped her. They were all too stunned to move. Raju had not moved from his spot. He stood perfectly still, with tears running down his face, listening to the man who had sat with them after they buried Chike and Amara, who had patted Raju's shoulder and said, "Be strong, my son," confessed that he had taken those children the same way a common thief takes money from a pocket. What happened to Ode that evening, the way the river seemed to pull him toward it, the way people said the water rose briefly before dawn and then dropped again, the way his house was found completely empty the next morning, with the clay vessel shattered on the floor, nobody could fully explain. What they could explain was this. 3 months later, on the day Kalu and Ne turned 7 years old, Ochi opened the front door of their home at sunrise and stood with her children in the full morning light for the very first time. The light touched them. Nothing happened. No rumble from the river. No green glow. Just 2 children squinting and laughing at the brightness of an ordinary day. Completely free.
But here is the part nobody expected. When the hospital in the city registered Kalu and Nene for school documents, birth records, blood type, the routine things, the nurse paused and called the doctor over. She pointed to the results on her screen. The doctor checked twice. Then he looked at Ochi with a careful expression. Both children had a blood type that did not match Raju, that did not in fact match any known human blood classification on record. When they sent the samples to the city laboratory, the laboratory sent back a one-line response. Sample inconclusive. Recommend retesting. They retested 3 times. Same result each time. Raju never asked Ochi about it. Perhaps he already knew that some questions carry answers too large to live with comfortably. He loved his children. He raised them. He grew old alongside them. But every time Kalu or Ine walked near still water, a bucket, a puddle, a glass left on the table, the water moved toward them. Just slightly. Just enough to notice if you were watching closely. And sometimes, on quiet nights, they could hear the Oji River from inside the house. Even in the dry season, when the river was supposed to be silent. Even when it was 40 minutes away. Life no balanso.
The end. Thank you for watching. And if this story moved you, share it. Some truths are better carried by many hands. Please do well to subscribe, share, and come back for more videos. Bye bye.